Yes, everyone, what's going on? My name is Stephen Howson, and this is your tactical preview of Manchester United and against Norwich City. And as the title suggests, Solskjaer needs this win desperately. Desperately needs this win. I thought this was the more important of the two games this week. Partizan, which we picked up 3 points in, means absolutely jack shit if we don't pick up 3 points against Norwich, unless we want to be the first team to be playing in the Champions League and the Championship at the same time, I guess. I don't think the 3-5-2 has been developed to be deployed at this stage of the season. I think the fact that we stuck with 4-2-3-1 right the way through up until the Liverpool game tells me that we were probably trying to use that as our primary formation. We didn't use it in pre-season as a primary position. So I worry that we've just fell upon this and are trying to make it fit what we've got. And that doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy inside, because it doesn't feel like it's a planned, deliberate thing. It feels reactionary, and it feels like, just doesn't feel good, to be honest with you. Adam says 5 wins from 5 coming up. Probably not, brother. Like the video if you're just getting here, and subscribe if you're just getting here as well. I'll go into the team news. This is what Solskjaer's had to say about the players. We don't expect Pogba to be available. David De Gea will be. He said David will be ready for Sunday, but we didn't want to take a risk travelling here. Makes no sense. He goes, we're not going to risk him. Paul, no. Matic and Shaw are back in Manchester after recovering in Dubai. They've gone past the injury stage. Let's see when they'll be available. I don't expect either of them to feature against Norwich. Norwich have had several concerns themselves. Defender Ben Godfrey, he has now confirmed his availability for those. So United's form, this is depressing, isn't it? First away win since PSG. Get in. The performance against Liverpool was tactically a lot better, I thought, than what actually we saw against Partizan. But you have to remember the team that played against Partizan was not United's shiny, polished, top of the tree, first choice 11. We sit 14th, 2 points ahead of the relegation zone, and 7 points adrift off the top five. Arsenal in 5th. That's who we're that far behind off. Rashford goal last week, one from Marshall. Might give a bit of hope. Might not. We've struggled against the non-top 6 sides. We've only managed to get 5 points in 6 games. And that, for me, is very, very, very worrying. Reminiscent of what we saw under Van Gaal, with arguably a far inferior squad. No Falcao, no Rooney, no Schweinsteigers, nothing like that. And we still struggled then. So I feel we are going to massively struggle with this one going forward. Norwich then, they sit 19th with only 7 points. Their 2 wins came both at home. They beat Manchester City. They usually line up in a 4-2-3-1, or they have sort of switched that up to a 4-1 against Bournemouth. And they did go back to a 4-2-3-1 when there was an attack. They are shit at centre-half. They are very narrow with their central midfield. And I think they're probably going to look to push through the fullbacks. And that, for me, is an area that Manchester United can exploit. And one of the ways I see United exploiting them is actually through the ball-playing defenders that we've got. But I'll get into that a little bit later when I give you my 11. They like to play with 2 pressing lines against Chelsea, Pucky and Buendia, and then also the midfield 4. They go really compact. They try and intercept any through balls that are coming through. Well, that plays into our hands because there's no fucking through balls coming through whatsoever. Their strength is that they heavily rely on the through ball themselves, and that's why I'll come to him in a second, but I've chosen the key player that I've chosen for United. They do heavily rely on Pukki. Off the ball, he's great. I really think someone like Scott McTominay can pick him up, or we can probably give one of our centre-halves the job of just tracking him, because he is going to be moving off the ball a lot. That's what they rely on heavily. He's not scored in a long time. Chances are he might get on the score sheet. If he scores, United are going to have to score several. I don't think 1-0 would cut it for United in this game. Do you know what? I'm really torn on my predictions between United winning 1-0. Sorry, United winning 3-1. I know. Or or it being 0-0. I don't think 1-0 is going to cut it in this instance. So United's key player then. I'm going with Victor Lindelof. Maguire is obviously United's dominant centre-half, and that third position is still kind of up in the air a little bit. In my starting 11, I've gone for Rojo, but that's only because I think Axel isn't going to be fit after what happened last week. Norwich love to play the ball into the channel, and that's where they try and pick Pukki up. Now, for me, Victor Lindelof, the one outstanding attribute that he's got is reading through balls, and he covers through balls into the channels better than most centre-halves I've seen, to be honest. In terms of his attributes, this is his big one. So this is a big game for Lindelof. He's not been anywhere near as impressive as he was last season. That might be because somebody else has taken a lot of the spotlight off him. I think he's in real danger of losing his spot to Axel Tuanzebe if we go back to a back four. But this is a game that he really could shine in. If United are serious about playing free at the back and playing it out from the centre-backs, then Lindelof and Maguire are going to be heavily relied upon to play the ball out from, and Rojo if he's going to be the third one that's selected. 61.13 passes per game and 2.8 successful long balls per game. That's what Lindelof can bring to the team's build-up, especially in a back three. I would expect him to do more than that. And I think that we can fire balls into those channels behind their fullbacks from all of our defenders. Starting 11-wise, here's what I wanted to go with. I think Ollie's going to persist with the back three until the wheels fall off it. I'm not sure I agree with that, but I think that's what he's going to do. I would go with Lindelof, Maguire and Rojo, and I expect all three of those to be stepping out of defence with the ball. And I would want these to be putting the ball into the channels for Rashford and Martial and James to get on the end of. Wan-Bissaka as a right wing back on the right-hand side. Not convinced with him in the final third, but maybe that's just something that he's got to get used to, playing for a slightly bigger club. Well, a bigger club. What I want to see on the left-hand side is Brandon Williams. I don't want to see Ashley Young there because he offers nothing. And I don't want to see Luke Shaw there because, well, he's not fit. The midfield two basically picks itself. It'll be Fred and McTominay because they're virtually the only two players that are available. And I did actually put Andreas Pereira in the number 10 first and had James in instead of Marshall because I don't think Marshall wants to be or deserves to be starting again on the back of the performance midweek. But I actually think that Ollie's going to try and see if these two lads can play together in a partnership, Rashford and Marshall. And I wouldn't mind seeing how effective they can be with each other. So I went with James in behind because I think he deserves his place in the first team and I don't think he's going to get dropped. And the energy that he can provide can probably make up for the energy that Marshall lacks. So that's the team that I'm going with. De Gea, Lindelof, Maguire, Rojo, Wan-Bissaka, Brandon Williams, who has more than done enough to earn another start, McTominay and Fred, James, Rashford, Marshall. Let me know in the comments what you think about that starting 11, and I'm going to come to the Patreon group and see what you guys are saying in the old comments. Will we score 2 goals, says Luke. I don't know why. I mean, these are really bad, Norwich. These are absolutely dog shit. And teams create chances against them, so maybe even United can create chances against them. Just maybe. Clemens is like, how to create more chances? Right, so the way this Norwich team sets up and the way that they push forward with their fullbacks, I just thought it was a real good opportunity for United. If they're going to probably come out and mark our wing-backs, I think they leave a man free in one of our centre-halves, and that centre-half I want to see step up with the ball, and I want to see them play the ball through the lines, because I don't really believe in Fred, and I don't really believe in McTominay when it comes to that ball-playing ability. So I just want to get the ball into the final third. Not the way Liverpool do it. They go real high, and going real high for us is stupid. Dan James and Marcus Rashford and Tony Marshall. Have you ever seen any of them hold a ball up? You've not really, have you? So if we're going to play the ball on the floor, it's got to be in the channels and it's got to be in space and it's got to be to feet. You can't be going banging in crosses. You've got to know your audience. You can't be going banging in mad crosses with Dan James trying to get on the end of them. It just doesn't work like that. Christian's saying, it does Marshall start? He didn't play well for Partizan, but he's in desperate need of fitness. He looked like a guy who'd been out for weeks. Yeah, I think on merit, he doesn't start, but I think he probably does start because I think if they're going to persist with this formation, you probably need them two to be the main players in this formation. 4-2-3-1 and 1-0 with a dodgy pen in the 21st minute, says Meandering Messiah. A lot of this squad have been together 2 or 3 seasons at least. Why does it still look like they have absolutely no chemistry or patterns of play? Because there's no leadership. Because even though some of the players have played together for a while, they've not really been with the manager that long, and there's not necessarily been the same system. Pogba is the guy that Ollie wants to build his team around. Pogba's barely played 2 games back-to-back since when? I don't even know when. The injuries have really thrown everything off. And the lack of Pogba, even though he's not looked amazing when he's been in the team, has really affected us. Will I throw Ollie off a building if he plays Young again? I think you have to ask questions about if Young plays regularly for the next 4 or 5 games. This weekend you can kind of understand because, I mean, I don't understand it, but I can kind of understand it. If he plays Young this weekend because he's been rested and he thinks he's good enough for it, but there's no way he's better than Williams. And I've been saying this for months. There's no way he is better than Williams. And Williams is out there now proving it in the first team. He's got to be the one that starts. So if Young plays this weekend, all right, cool. But should he play the following week and the following week and the following week? Well, then, yeah, you have to start questioning what Ollie's doing because there's nothing I'm seeing from Young which warrants that start. If we only manage to score 1 goal again, what do you think we'll be able to do? I think we'll be able to keep Norwich out, bearing in mind we've thrown away leads against Wolves and Southampton away from home? I actually do. And I know this is very likely to bite me in the arse, but I actually do think that we can keep them quiet because Pookie's completely off form. Everything else outside of him is a bit ordinary. And they're a team that's probably going down. So, yeah, I don't think they'll be too difficult. We have actually been doing well keeping teams quiet. So I think that we'll be able to continue to keep teams quiet. Our biggest issue is chance creation and chance conversion. Cosmo Drake says, how do we improve the vision, movement and passing of our front three to add a new dimension? Their experience for the most part, save James. They are a little bit experienced. They're still young, all of them. I still think it comes from the midfield. That's where chance creation starts. That's where your chance creations really happen. That's why midfielders are one of the most coveted positions in a game behind strikers. And we was already asking for a record-breaking season out of every single one of these strikers to even have half a chance. That was poor management from the start. We let 50-odd goals go. All right, not from United, but like you could reasonably expect 50-something goals from the likes of Sanchez and Lukaku, and we just allowed them to go without replacing them. That was criminal. And I don't think that would have been Ollie's choice to do so. I think he must have been promised people and they couldn't get them over the line in time for our window closing, and maybe that's why you're hearing stuff about us going for people in January already. But I think that's our issue. Yes, I think the forwards could definitely be doing better, but I put most of this down to not being able to dominate midfield and not having good enough creative midfielders. Pure and simple. And we're pretty shit from set pieces too. Pogba is scheduled for recovery on the first day of the January transfer window. Here we go. It's not going to be 3 defenders this game. I think it will, because I don't think that we just suddenly decided. Hang on. Ryan Edwards says, Pookie off form. He scored 2 for Finland last game. The guy's clueless. All right, he scored 2 against Armenia, my mate. I know what I'm fucking talking about, and I do my research. He scored 2 against Armenia, and he hasn't scored since 14th of September, apart from that. And that's about 7 games. So maybe stick that up your ass. How does that sound? McTominay, very average, says Montel Jordan. I think McTominay's been very simple in what he's been doing, basic even. But he's been making really good decisions. And I can't fault him for that. But he isn't ever going to be someone that picks the ball up, drives it forward and plays a killer ball into the box in the final third. That's just not his game. We still need three midfielders to play and rotate. I agree. The area where we are actually very good is defence, says Mr. Kipling, which enables us to score 1 goal and get away with it. We need 2 or 3 players in January to up the quality of the team and the squad. I agree with that. United couldn't score 2 against Armenia. Listen, Giorgio, we're not actually in the same competition as Armenia. I hate to break that one to you. Mata and Matic really need to go, says Fikri. And Any more questions in Patreon? Do I reckon Pookie would be a shout in January as a backup? No. No, I wouldn't. He's pretty good movement off the ball, but no, I don't think so. Jeremy Vella's dropped in a super chat and he says, hope Brandon starts on Sunday, but McTominay for me right now, he's the perfect example for him to improve and for all the other youngsters. Pereira's decision making is poor despite spells at Valencia and Granada. I agree with that one. Would Fred suit a number 10 role? I don't know what would suit Fred, to be perfectly honest with you. I can't work out, as a guy that looks so good, as just not being able to deliver in the slightest. Partizan was a good win. It was a good win. No, I don't know if anyone's trying to take the piss with that, but I think it was a good win, especially with the team that we had out there. Do I think Greenwood didn't play because he will play against Norwich? No, I don't think he will, and I don't really know what the reason behind that was, why he didn't play against them. I really don't. Righty then, if you are interested in supporting this channel and some of the extra stuff that you want, and you want extra content, I'm literally about to drop the Q&A from this week in about 5 minutes. Then hit the link in the description and come and join us on Patreon. It's about £1 a week, and for that you get extra content, you get the questions in the lives, and we're off to go and play five-a-side against some of our subscribers later tonight, and the only people that get to come and do that are the Patreon. So if you'd like to support the channel, you want extra content, you want all the rest of that sort of stuff, then check the link in the description and come and join it. We are doing a meet-up in Manchester just before Christmas, where we're going to have, hopefully, Wes Brown, and we're going to do a live podcast that you guys can come to, a little bit of a meet and greet, a live podcast, and we're going to film, so the rest of the Patreon, so even if you're not from Manchester, you're still going to get to see it. It won't be going out on YouTube publicly for people, and we are also planning one for Dublin, probably in around about February as well, with a Champions League winning United legend. So if you're interested in that, you're interested in supporting the channel, you're interested in the extra content, the behind the scenes stuff, and even a little bit of inside info when it comes to transfer rumours on United. The lads got told about Wan-Bissaka all the way back in March, and also about Maguire before you heard it as well. So if you're interested in any of that sort of stuff, then hit the link in the description and come and check it out. And if you come and play in five-a-side tonight, I will see you later. Till the next one, in a bit.